Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So, in the beginning of this episode with a little intro montage, I went ahead and I did the restoration work that I was going to on all of these parts for the Mark II. Now, I won't be able to work on the Mark II in this episode. As you can see, we have stacked Supras right now. As in this bay, at least for the next little bit of time, we'll be being joined by another Supra. This is my buddy Thomas's car. It's a pretty nice, pretty cool single turbo setup, single turbo Supra, VVTi head, etc., etc. If you guys saw a number of videos back when I was finishing up a titanium downpipe with a recirculated wastegate on a hot part setup, that was actually Thomas's setup. And that car and that setup are on their way here as I speak currently to occupy this bay space right here so I can finish up some exhaust work, some intercooler tubing, and maybe a few other odds and ends. Now that I have Thomas's Supra in the shop and I've had some time to go over it, and he actually came up yesterday, dropped some parts off, and we did an overview of the project and what it's going to consist of, I can say pretty much without a doubt this is the nicest and most well put together street Supra that I've ever seen and ever had a part in. So no detail and no stone has gone unturned with this thing, and I'm really excited to get this thing, or to get my portion of it wrapped up so he can get this thing up and going and enjoy it. A brief overview, and I may be missing some points, so bear with me and Thomas can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we have here is a VVTi headed 2JZ GTE, or a GTE head at least. I built this turbo setup for him, or the hot part setup for him, a year or two ago, and it's a billet collector tri-Y manifold, similar to my normal Gen R manifolds. But this is a V-band manifold with a precision, or not a precision, but a Turbo Smart 60mm E-gate. The turbo is, from everything that I can tell, a 68mm Zona rotor turbo with a tile housing. You can see all interesting little bits sprinkled throughout here. There's a ton of, not necessarily Easter eggs, but just really good parts, and he has all the right parts to make this thing work and make a bunch of power. So, see titanium intake. We can see the titanium downpipe and recirculated wastegate deal that I did for this car. Hopefully you guys can see that down there. I have a nice big Powerhouse Racing catch can, really nice radiator, and judging by the cap, I'm assuming that it's a CNR radiator. I have a Freed intercooler, which Freed, really good guys over there, and they do some really killer work. Sleeper Designs. This is it's an RMR clone intake manifold. You can see ID injectors of some sort there. I have a drive-by-wire throttle body with a Magnus little adapter deal here to use a Vibrant Vangen. Looking around a little bit more, we can see some big fans and a nice shroud with some actual pass-throughs on it. So really nice touches there. And you can see through the clear cover here the VVTi gear, and then a Titan, this would be the exhaust cam gear, IGN-1A coils, billet valve covers, and so on and so forth. All the beautiful little, not trinkets, but all the beautiful little parts all throughout. And he's really done his research and got some really good, interesting parts on this thing. So looking at the engine bay more, we have a Rad Industries upper water neck, and the machine work on that is just absolutely beautiful. I love the surface finish. You can see all of the Titan pulleys and everything on the front here, and I guess some of them are Titan, some of them are Powerhouse, like the AC compressor pulley down there, but everything really nice. And I have a Rad Industries alternator, which these, from what Thomas had told me, they're a little bit higher amperage capacity, or amperage output rather, and they're also self-exciting, so you don't have to do any wiring going to them. So beyond that, we have some really nice Forge Line wheels, which this is a local company, or local-ish to me and very local to Thomas. They're out of the Dayton area, and I actually built a manifold around the same time that I did this turbo setup for Thomas. I built one for the Supra that the owner of Forge Line actually has, and I'll throw a photo in somewhere here. It's a really cool, really wild road race Supra. That road race Supra is really cool, and it's one that has a bunch of history behind it, and something that I was very happy to get one of my parts onto. So behind the wheels, you can see the big F there. This is a big brake kit using, I forget which Lexus that Thomas said, but it's one of the F models, obviously, hence the big F on the caliper. But he has this really neat big brake setup on it, and just really, really cool stuff. So inside of the car, very, very clean. See the nice Momo wheel, and I mean, all the panels and everything else on the inside of this car are just spotless. I mean, I feel bad being even near it, let alone sitting in it or anything else, but he's done just a beautiful job with all of this. So you see these are Corbeau seats, and they look really comfortable. I'm not going to crawl inside of it right now with my dirty work boots on, but they look really comfortable, and everything is good to go there. Now, moving underneath of the car, there are all kinds of really cool bits, and when Thomas was here yesterday and we had the car up in the air, I was standing and just staring at everything, and honestly getting some ideas for what to do in the future with the silver car over there. So starting from the front here, you can look at the bottom of the intercooler and see these really cool, really nice brackets that go along with the freed intercooler. And I love the triangular shape. I love the cutouts in here. I love the fact that it has 3 points of contact, etc., etc. And I love the fact that the brackets are symmetrical. So freed, really good job on that, guys. And this intercooler is going to support as much power as Thomas could ever want to make with this particular setup. So see an aftermarket front sway bar, and everything underneath of here is just super clean and super nice. And if we move over here, you can see all kinds of figs, suspension arms. I mean, these are lower control arms right here, look really nice. The actual sway bar end links look pretty cool, and I love the gray color and everything else with all of that. So his front subframe is actually powder coated, and it's a very beautiful, very nice piece. And we can see poking through here an Autobahn Motorsports deep 2JZ oil pan. So my buddy Tommy over at Autobahn came up with these, and it adds a little bit of oil capacity while still keeping the pan above the actual aluminum subframe right here. So that way you don't have to worry about the oil pan being the lowest point. If you hit the oil pan on something, rupture it, drain all of your oil out, then you're in for a bad day. And with this pan setup, you don't have to worry about any of that. So moving back, you can see a Grannis cast bell housing. You can see the lines for the internal slave cylinder right here. You can also see oil filter relocation. And if you can see up through there, there's an actual billet engine mount as well. So again, all kinds of cool billet goodies and everything else. and this is just a really, really nice setup. So this is a T56, and I can't remember who Thomas said he had build the transmission. I'll include it on the screen right now, but it is not a Grannis T56. It's another company, and he said when they went through it, they did a number of really neat, really trick things that should make this a transmission that will last him a very long time. So moving back from there, carbon fiber drive shaft, always a nice touch. We have these are from a company called Venom, it looks like, and really nice line holders that go into all the factory locations here, which I'll need to get some of those for the silver car. And we have right here the beginnings of the ETS titanium. This would be, I guess, a catback. Moving back even farther, we have a Ford 88, and this, I believe he said, is an iron housing, so very strong. You can see all of the billet mounts and all of that stuff along here. Drive shaft shop axles. You can see the Grannis fabricated rear subframe, which I'd love to build something like this for the silver car as well. Just not right this moment. Might be a winter project or something like that. You can see more Figs arms back here with what look like blue Super Pro bushings. And you can also see the HKS coilovers. And I can't remember which ones he said that he has, but HKS coilovers, always nice, always a good touch. And finally, I guess last but not least, we have Powerhouse Racing, their new or newer fabricated fuel cell. So they do a nice job with these. I don't know the capacity on them, but you can see they have a nice sump integrated into the bottom. And they also have all of this stuff here, which helps to keep the bumper skin up in place as it should be. And then out back here, you can see the outlet of the ETS titanium catback, and obviously I need to do some linking from the outlet of the downpipe that I built over to the ETS catback right there. So what this car is in for is a titanium midpipe, intercooler tubing, and a couple other little odds and ends, just miscellaneous little projects. On the inside of the car, I need to make a little block off panel, something along those lines, to cover up the shifter hole. So hopefully that won't be too bad to knock out. And under the hood here, for his fuel pulse damper, I need to make a little bracket going from these two fasteners here down to this stud on the chassis. As you can see, if I put a little bit of force on this, this can move around pretty easily. And that's just a whole lot of leverage to potentially have these fittings fracture, bad things happen, fuel leak, and potential fire. All things that I'm pretty sure Thomas wants to avoid with this nice new fancy setup that he has. So Thomas was kind and courteous enough to bring up all of these totes here, and there's a bunch of extra materials and things along those lines that he had acquired when he was doing some welding and fabrication work on this thing, and we'll work out a deal where what is interesting to me, I can give him a good deal on the work that I'm doing in exchange for some of these pieces. And I guess in here, if I can get this undone with one hand, are some of the really cool ones, and the ones that I'm real excited about. So these right here are tube cutting fixtures, and these are a joint venture between Tycon, you guys can see that there, and Sequence Manufacturing, which is a company that my buddy Joe over at Tempest Racing, that is his brainchild. So what these are vice jaws, or cutting fixtures or what have you, to cut thin wall tubing and not deal with having the tube be distorted in the vise on the bandsaw. So anytime you're working with thinner wall stuff, namely the titanium tube that I use for a bunch of different projects here, it can be a little bit of a nightmare to cut in the bandsaw. By the time you clamp it down with the bandsaw vise, it will oval the tube, you don't get a good grab on it, and I end up having to do some semi-sketchy stuff to make titanium cuts in the bandsaw, but with those vise jaws or those vise cutting fixtures, that will no longer be the case. So those I will definitely be dealing with him on to keep a hold of those. And beyond just tooling, he also provided, I guess these are some other cool tools. These are 60mm Turbo Smart weld fixtures, so pretty self-explanatory there. It's just a V-band with an 1/8 NPT hole to run a purge line into. But he included all the Vibrant VanGen HD clamps for this setup and all of that. So I still have to go through all of this and do an actual inventory to see what all is here and see what all will still need to be ordered. But I think there's one additional tote that will be on the way with some aluminum components, but beyond that, it should have a pretty good head start on everything that I need to knock this out. I just need to do an inventory and see what's there and what still needs to be ordered. So at this point in my life and my career, I guess, I've been involved with or proximal to a pretty large number of Supra builds. And it's always interesting to see the difference between the way, or the different ways that people put these cars together. So we'll use my car and we'll use Thomas's car for an example right here. So starting with Thomas's car, it's a much more street-driven setup, and it's something that in all actuality and in all reality is a much more fun and enjoyable car than the silver car is. Now, the silver car is obviously much more in your face and has some crazier parts on it, like the header, all the dry sump stuff, the fuel system, etc., etc. But all of these things serve to make the car serve one purpose, as opposed to Thomas's car, where you can do just about anything that you'd want to do with it. You want to go on the road course? Fine, go for it. You want to go drag racing? By all means, throw some bigs and littles on it and send it down the track. You want to go street drive it? Go ahead. It will be perfectly sufficient and perfectly reliable to do that with it. You want to take it to a car show? People love to see these cars, and Thomas's car is a good example of it, or of one of them. You want to go do some spirited backroads driving? Well, the turbo will be responsive enough, in addition to the VVTi head, to make backroads driving or canyon carving, to use kind of a cliched phrase for it, it'll be perfect for that. So the older that I've gotten, and it's a little bit counterintuitive since I've put so much time and effort and everything into this, but the older that I've gotten, the more that I appreciate street setups like this as opposed to crazy race setups like this, just for the overall utility that they serve. And with the silver car, I've tried very hard to bring some of those street car amenities back to it to make it more than just a one-trick pony, maybe a trick and a half or two-trick pony, as opposed to a car like Thomas's, where you can do just about whatever you want with it. So that's at least a little bit of my thought process, my perspective about building cars at this point in my life after having done it for a decade or longer. But hopefully it makes sense, and I guess let me know what you guys think in the comments, what your preferred way to build a car is, what your preferred usages are. So at this point, I need to get a materials list together, put an estimate together, send it over to Thomas, and see exactly what he wants to do with it. I guess at this point, I'm about out of things to talk about, and I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing my voice, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So thank you guys, as always, for coming along on all the journeys in the shop and out of the shop with me. I'm looking forward to getting to work on Thomas's car. Looking forward to putting the Mark II back together, and getting these parts done was a big step forward for that. And also looking forward to getting the last few items wrapped up on the Mark IV, so that way I can get the tune finished up and go make some hits before the end of the year. But those are all things upcoming and all things that will be on the channel. And I'm very much looking forward to filming all of it, documenting it, and showcasing it to all of you. So for those of you that come along on this journey with me, I thank you very much. I hope that you're still deriving value and entertainment and everything else from this, as I know I'm still having a lot of fun doing it. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you very much, and thank you for sticking with me for all the time that I've been doing this. But without rambling on anymore, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.